If you're looking for an affordable performance car that won't break your budget, Hyundai is one of few brands at this point that really has something for you. Welcome to Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake and I'm here with the 2025 Hyundai Elantra N. Hyundai first started their N sub-brand of performance cars with the Veloster N several years ago. That one unfortunately is no longer with us, but the Elantra N was the second model that they launched, and this one still is here. Now, Hyundai didn't change anything for 2025. They call this a complete carryover model, but they changed a few things for 2024, and I have not driven one since 2023. So I'm excited to spend a little bit of time with this, talk about what's different, see if I still like it, because I really liked the previous one, and I liked the Veloster N quite a bit. And let's just get right into what they did. So as far as changes for 2024 and thus 2025 on the Elantra N, the nose is going to be the single biggest styling element that you see that is different. I think a lot of people found the earlier Elantra N's nose to be a little controversial and not to their liking, so this is the replacement. And I mean, whether you like it or not is up to you, not up to me, but it is, I think, a more attractive design. It is a little easier to palette if you don't want something that's quite so controversial. Now, every Hyundai N car, including the Elantra N, gets all these red accents around the car. That's kind of their signature accent piece. And then they've also got a really lovely paint color that's a light kind of baby blue called Performance Blue that I just adore. I am bummed this one is white, but they do offer that blue on this car, and always get the good color. As far as what's the same, under the hood, you're still going to have a 2-liter turbocharged four-cylinder making 276 horsepower and 289 pound-feet of torque. It is paired to a standard 6-speed manual or an optional 8-speed wet dual-clutch automatic transmission. This car is a 6-speed manual, which I am such a fan of. We'll talk more about that in just a second. No matter which transmission you choose, you get a standard limited slip differential that is electronically controlled, and you get standard adaptive suspension and standard active exhaust. So all of that can be tweaked based on your drive mode. The brakes also have not changed. You get a 14.2-inch rotor up front and a 12.4-inch rotor out back with some big old calipers. And you get a slightly different wheel design, which is a nice touch. Where Hyundai really changed things, though, is with some bushings and some steering gear changes. So they did very, very small tweaks to some suspension bushings, to the steering gear, to some of the software to adapt to what they changed. But basically, their aim here was to make the car a little more compliant, a little more precise, with a little bit better feel. It's not to say the old one was bad by any means, old pre-facelift, whatever, but they just wanted to tweak things just a bit and make things just a bit crisper and a little bit more feedbacky. But before we get behind the wheel, I do want to talk about price, because Hyundai's got this thing very competitively priced, I think. As far as hot sedans, you don't have that many on the more affordable end of the spectrum. You've got the Honda Civic Si and Type-R, and you've got the Volkswagen Jetta GLI, and then you've got this girl right here. So this is priced right around $35,000 with the manual. Of course, the dual clutch is going to add a little bit more money, but not a ton. Now, this is slightly more than the Civic Si and slightly more than the Jetta GLI, and it's going to be a good bit less than the Civic Type-R. But power-wise, 276 and 289 torques. So let's keep all that in mind and get behind the wheel and see how this whole package still holds up this year. All right, so driving the Elantra N, well, I've got two buttons on the steering wheel here. One puts me in sport mode, and one puts me in the N mode. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that, because that is the stiffest, the sportiest, the everythingest, and this thing rips. Oh, these are easy to fling around. All right, so now that I'm able to put some cognizant thought to that, that differential does a lot of good work, and the associated steering and throttle mapping are fantastic. This car is easy to drive quickly. It is very easy to get the weight transfer going the way you want it, especially through some sweepery curve like that. And even when you need things to be a little bit more nimble and more playful in that regard, it's also very happy to do that. So as far as, you know, did the steering calibration changes do anything? Did the suspension bushing changes and engine mount bushing changes do anything? Most of us are probably not going to notice much difference, myself included. But this is still a lovely car to drive. It's fun, it's easy to drive quickly, and it kind of encourages you, it goads you to do more. These two N buttons here are fun because these are mapped to the different drive modes, which do change things about the car, and I like the fact that you can pop it into the full N mode or pop it to sport if you want, and things soften up a little bit. It just makes it that much more easy to enjoy because you don't have to fiddle with any sort of drive mode, options otherwise. But the other button that they have on the steering wheel is this red button for rev. If you have the dual clutch transmission, that is for NGS, N-Grin Shift, which is an overboost and shift functionality. But on the manual cars, it's just auto rev matching. So makes life easier. And as far as how this thing builds power and how it kind of everything, you can lean into it, the way it builds boost, there's a teeny bit of turbo lag, but it's pretty good right away, and it holds boost nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and slow down here, and it tapers off toward the red line. The red line is indicated at like 6,700. It feels pretty good all the way up there though. So nice flat torque curve. It's not super peaky, and it's plenty quick. It's definitely more torque than horsepower. You feel that, but not a ton. And I really enjoy how it drives there. The manual transmission on this is interesting in that it doesn't quite have the weight and the feel of a Honda manual, but it's not bad. It is a little bit light, it's pleasantly notchy, and the clutch is also pleasant to deal with. I'd say it's a little bit on the light side, but there's enough feel, and it makes it easy to deal with traffic too. So if you're on the fence of like, oh, I really would like the manual, but I deal with city driving a lot, or I commute in this car, it's fine. You're not gonna have a problem with it. If you really want the manual, just get it. The dual clutch is good, I've driven those too, but save the manuals if you really want one. This is a good enough one to be driving, and it's really easy to deal with. The steering feels nice, great crisp feel, good turn in. The brakes feel really nice, good initial bite, all of that. It's, hey, Kia Rio, you're beep booping along pretty quickly there. What was I saying? The brakes, they feel good. Nice initial bite, nice feel as you travel through the pedal. And even with the auto rev matching, the pedals are spaced well for heel and toe. So if you want to do it yourself, you certainly can, and you're not gonna have an issue there. It's actually quite easy to do. I really appreciate that they put some effort into that. And then suspension-wise, even in the full N mode, it still is not gonna beat you up. I just kind of intentionally aimed for that pothole, and it, even on imperfections, this has good body control without being too harsh. So that's nice. This is a car you can live with every day. It is, of course, going to be a little raw in here. This is an Elantra at its core, and Hyundai added extra chassis bracing, and they did all these things to make it more sporty. They did not do anything to make it, quieter. And then I do want to talk about the exhaust on this car, because the one nice thing here is that you can turn off all of the piped in noise in the cabin. So everything you've heard has had this turned off, and I think it sounds pretty good without being obnoxious. So A+ there. The downside, or kind of it is what it is moment, is this is a Hyundai Elantra. There's not going to be a lot of sound deadening. So as far as highway driving, this might be a little noisy, but that's kind of what you're getting into, and also that's what you signed up for with something like this. And if you want something that's going to be performance-y and quieter and more luxurious, you're just not gonna get an Elantra, and you're also just not gonna pick kind of anything in this segment. You're gonna go up into a luxury brand. But this is a lovely car. I really enjoy it. The seats are comfortable, at least for me. These are more aggressively bolstered seats, of course, compared to a regular Elantra. Keep in mind, my build versus your build, this will feel completely different. As far as how I fit in the car, I fit fairly well. I wish the steering wheel would come a touch further back so I could get the seat a touch further back. However, it works fine. I wouldn't complain. I would still buy this car with the seating position that I have. And I have good headroom. There's no sunroof in this car. It's not offered on the N. They want to keep the weight down physically for center of gravity. So nice, you get a little extra headroom out of that. Otherwise, the cabin is perfectly pleasant to deal with. I think the dash feels fairly low. Visibility is fairly good. The one thing that I don't love, and this is such a nitpicky thing, but CarPlay is not wireless, and I just wish they could, implement that. That would be really nice. But otherwise, it's got a perfectly fine-sized touchscreen. We don't need a bigger screen. Bigger screens are not always better. I'm an adamant believer of that. Dual-zone climate control is nice. Heated front seats, that's great. Everything is generally pleasant in here. It's decent room for the size of car. I like how they use the screen for the gauges. You've got different views based on your drive modes. So I think they're doing a lot well here. It's a nice car. But then the question is, would you spend the $35,000-ish on this versus a Civic Si or a Jetta GLI? Or would you want to step up to a Civic Type-R? But that's a lot more money. So I think, you know, this is a compelling option for, you know, where these things are priced. It is perhaps more compelling than perhaps the Civic and the Jetta because of the power and because of the extra performance goodies. This feels much sharper and much more performance-y compared to something like those two cars. Those feel a little softer, whereas this, I think, feel-wise, is a little bit more like a Civic Type-R. This is certainly not a boring car. It is quite fun. It is very enjoyable to bop around in, and you know, these cars do very well on the racetrack, at autocross, on back roads. I have enjoyed them in several of those scenarios, and you know, it's a compelling buy. So I think for 2025, this car absolutely still holds up. I don't think Hyundai needs to do much to keep it competitive right now. I think if you're in the market for something like this, this is absolutely a must test drive. So those are my thoughts on the 2025 Hyundai Elantra N. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, be sure to subscribe right here, turn on that bell so you don't miss a single thing, because we've got way more fun content coming, more fun cars, more project cars, all that good stuff. Head over to outmotorsports.com if you'd like to connect with a fellow community of LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors. We would love to be your new best friend, and we've got events both in person and online around the country throughout this year. Till next time, please stay safe, be well. See you for the next one.